Everybody. Good morning. Very briefly, I know there's some Sprinklr customers here, but in case some folks don't know, I'll do the 10-second commercial. Sprinklr is the only unified customer experience management platform in the world. So teams who care about marketing and advertising and care and research and engagement can all come together, know the customer better, serve them in a personalized way, and most importantly, make them happier. We talk a lot about the transformation of customer experience at Sprinklr. You guys have gone through a transformation at Vista, and we're going to talk about that. But first, going from my right all the way down, why don't you introduce yourself to the room?
Hi, everybody. I'm Heather Deschenes. I run our integrated marketing for Vista. I've been with the company for almost 11 years, so a long time. Integrated marketing at Vista covers everything from what are we going to put out into the world today, tomorrow, next week, next month, from a creative perspective, what channels are we going to leverage? So I oversee kind of all of our go-to-market efforts. So what are we putting out there? What is our messaging going to stand for? And how is it going to impact our small business owners? I oversee all of our channel marketing, so email, affiliate, display, television, all of those things, and run integrated media. And also oversee all of our product and solutions marketing team. So how do we bring strong value propositions through our core offering out to our customers?
Heather's busy. I'm Cliff Skeete. I'm the Global Executive Creative Director. I've been at Vista for a little bit less than 2 years. In a nutshell, I just oversee all of the creative that goes out up and down the funnel and across the globe, which is a handful. But I work tight with all of these guys here to get this stuff out, and this is the final product that you guys all see whenever you see something Vista or Vistaprint related.
Awesome. Kate Armstrong. I head up our brand marketing team at Vista. I've been there for about a year and a half. And within brand marketing, the remit is brand strategy and brand management, a relatively new function, which we'll talk about, as well as some key marketing channels, so social, PR, comms, sports marketing, and brand activations. And just the way that we're starting to think about the brand of Vista, and how we permeate it throughout all of our areas.
Awesome. Hi, I'm Drew Casey. I'm in our data and analytics organization. I'm responsible for all of our marketing measurement, automation, and segmentation that we do at Vista. I also manage some of our programmatic, so I'm responsible for our paid search as well as our organic search. I've been at Vista now for just about 3 years, so it's been a wild and crazy ride joining just before COVID, but it's been exciting to go through this journey with an organization that is pre-dot-com bust and super successful, to needing to make this transformation and trying to think about how we actually measure, improve the financial impact ultimately of that to our shareholders and board members. So excited to be here today.
Very good. Heather, before we get to transformation, set the table for us. Give us a little context about Vistaprint and Vista and the history.
So Vista, formerly known as Vistaprint, right? When most people think of Vistaprint, they think the business card company, and most of you would probably say the free business card company, right? Because for years, right, that was our offering, and that's what we became associated for. When you think about how to help small business owners start, develop, and grow their business, that business card became the linch point to them being successful. It was their identity. It was the thing that made them legitimate and credible. And so for many years, right, got us to our first $1 billion of business, that was where we put all our efforts, and it was really all about a price point, a product, and a call to action. We developed really strong brand awareness over the years. We ran a lot of television, but we really weren't running it as a means to drive more brand engagement and brand love and brand attributes. It was really about driving sales. And so when you backtrack about 4 years ago, we looked at kind of our growth trajectory. We were scared, we were nervous, right? We were starting to see things slow down. And so we needed to really think about how we were going to evolve as a company. And so through the help of our research partners here, right, we're constantly talking to our small business owners and trying to understand what are their needs and wants and how have they evolved and changed. And so there were kind of 3 areas at play that we felt like we could really connect with small business owners that were credible for what we had to offer. So one was really expanding our portfolio. So not just business cards, but all the other things from a customized printable perspective that we could sell. So when you think about promotional apparel and gifts, right? Merchandise, sweatshirts, t-shirts, hats, all those types of things that really today a lot of small business owners want their customers to wear. We want to expand in those types of categories, as well as in other traditional print, so signs, banners, posters, et cetera. The second area that we wanted to evolve towards was when you think about how a small business owner represents their brand, right? You think about the design that goes into their logo and with their business identity. And so really design is a challenge for a lot of small businesses today because it's not accessible. It's not easily accessible. They don't know where to go. And so how do we evolve that offering to our small business owners? And the third really lesson from COVID was really around, right, everybody is going digital. And so how do we evolve our portfolio of offering to offer much more digital capabilities and products? So when you think about a brand that was only selling business cards or mostly selling business cards to wanting to evolve to, hey, we went from the business card company to being the marketing and design partner for small businesses to help them look and feel legit and credible and help them grow. It's a very, very big transition that we need to make. And there's a lot that goes into that, right? You don't say the word partner, in a very small context. We need to go from selling items to solutions. We need to go from being a provider to a partner. We need to go from selling business cards to a whole bunch more. And so that is the trajectory that we are on and the transformation behind, why we're standing here today talking about our brand story.
Drew, data and analytics, give us a little bit more color around that. So there's the history and there's a little of the context, but what beyond what Heather already shared kind of led to this transformation?
Yeah, I mean, I think Heather touched on a lot of it, but I think the core way we would think about it is the way we got to being $1 billion company at first isn't going to get us to our next incremental billion. And so as we started to think about it, Heather touched on a lot of how we need to rethink our partnership with our customers, but it also represents the change in terms of how we think about our business. When we started, business cards was a great signal for new business creation, which was a great entry point for us to be able to sell hopefully more products downstream to that customer after they've signaled, hey, I'm a new business, I need this business card, I'm going to go and start trying to acquire customers and build this up. And you see this in terms of organizations that we've purchased. We purchased 99 Designs, Crello, which we've rebranded as Vista Create, and we recognize that the business card is no longer that impetus for business creation. It really starts in a digital setting, creating a website, designing a logo, getting very active on social media. And so we're really trying to take those same principles that got us to that first billion and apply it into this new world that's much more digitally focused, but also allowing us to ultimately bring to our customers a more holistic solution for them as well.
All right, Kate, Cliff, I'm going to bring you both in and say something super obvious. This sounds big. This sounds like a lot. Kate, I think when we all spoke earlier, you pointed out this is a journey. This is a process. So either one of you can go first. Kate, why don't you go first? How do you start? Where do you start on that journey?
It is big. It's incredibly exciting. And I think where we started was really around the foundations and setting that sort of groundwork and framework, first starting with our brand strategy. Going back to Heather talked about it, we had a whole new and very clear vision, which was to be that expert design and marketing partner. So what is our strategic foundation that gets us there? And really thinking about why do we exist and what's our brand purpose? So setting that foundation, starting with, as we all do in this room, with the customer, working with Drew and team, working with our CCI team, who happens to be sitting here, on just really getting to know who that small business owner from a new business to an established business is, and thinking about all of the ways that we segment that audience. Then thinking about our company, the history that we came from that Heather mentioned, and where we wanted to go in that journey. The next was really thinking about the culture. We've all been through it. It was a very changing, this started a year and a half ago, 2-3 years ago. So think of all the changes that small businesses and the culture around them went through and all the shifts they had to make. And then really just putting that together to get to that strong strategic foundation of really helping them grow, helping them stand out, and really elevating what's unique about them. And from where we started with that foundation, it's about what we then wanted to say and how we wanted to say it.
Wow, what a segue.
There you go.
I think for me, I'd say it really, because it is big, it really started with belief, right? And getting people inside the building to believe that we can do this. And from a creative standpoint, you had to try to change the mindset that a lot of people had structurally. Thankfully, Ricky, our CMO, who we mentioned before, had laid that groundwork a couple of years before I got there, where it was like, we're going to move from this transaction to a solution, we're going to build a brand. And I think a lot of people are like, I think I put them in two categories. Some people are like, I don't know how to do that, and what is that? And other people who are like, oh, hell yeah, let's do it, like on board for it. So when I came in, it was just sort of like getting people to believe that creatively we can go to a different place, getting people to believe that the mission that we're trying to achieve is achievable, and we're going to get there in a different way than we ever had before. So it was a lot of talking, I came I came from the agency side, so I try to bring a lot of principles and beliefs that I had from the agency side into Vista. And it was just getting people to rally around that common cause. And when, it's like, talk about sports, like one wins, right? Like wins, they start to stack up. When people start to see, oh, wow, we can do this. And then that excitement and everything starts to build, you start to want more, and you want more of those successes. So I think for me, it started from an internal perspective. And as Kate said, like that culture, getting people to rally around what we're trying to do and how we're trying to do it, and seeing how it could be done in a different way. And I think from there, we've started to have a lot of wins. We have a lot of great partnerships. It was, again, a perfect segue from what Jennifer was talking about. We have a lot of sports partnerships. And when people saw like how we're showing up in different ways and different places, it was like, oh, wow. So I think for me, it's been like trying to rope a steer, but in a good way, because I think you see that belief, you see the passion and the energy now from a creative standpoint, that when you take all of the things combined and then the output, people believe in what we're doing.
We had an internal mantra that was called "Help Small, Feel Big," and that really set the tone for how we operated. Right, these small business owners, right? They wear multiple hats. They have many things to do. Marketing is not their sweet spot, and so how do we help them get that big platform that many of these big brands have? That we can offer them some little things. So through our partnerships, through all of our marketing, it's really kind of that's the internal rally cry that we think about to put ourselves in their shoes, and how do we help amplify their voices and their needs.
I like that. And Cliff, thank you for saying rope the steer and not herd cats, because it's overused. So rope the steer is much better. All right, Heather, let's talk now about roles and responsibilities in the middle of all that transformation. What expectations did you set? How did you define the roles and responsibilities as a team? And I think what would be really important, how did you sort of plan out what collaboration looks like?
Yeah, so about 3.5 years ago, we had a new CMO come in, Ricky Engelberg, and Ricky comes from 20 plus years at Nike. Vistaprint historically was a very performance marketing, direct response driven marketing company. So here you have this Nike executive coming in who is very brand oriented, brand heavy. And it was really interesting when we kind of first got together, because we just came from very different backgrounds. But the reason we brought Ricky in was because we did need to evolve, and we needed to reach new audiences, and we needed to be able to connect and tell our story in a different way. And so we really started to figure out, how are we going to evolve our marketing mix, right? We were heavily predominant in search and television, and yes, television can do a lot of things, but again, for us, it was very direct response driven. And so, we brought in Kate. We said we needed to build a brand team, and really, when we brought that in, I run a go-to-market team, she runs a brand team. There was a lot of confusion between the teams of, what exactly do you do? What do they do? Is there competition? And it's actually been an awesome journey for the last couple of years, because we actually really found a way. We always have somebody on the brand team and the go-to-market team working on a project together. Somebody is the driver, somebody is the passenger. You need that connectivity, because as a company, we want to make sure that people look at the things that we put out as a cohesive unit. We don't want there to be brand work and there to be, performance emails over here, and they look very disjointed. And so we really have found a way to just make the teams connected. Kate and I clearly have lines of delineation of our responsibility. She'll talk, she does a lot of the partnerships and social and community and brand strategy. I have a lot more of the performance side, but there's the messy middle, right, the mid-funnel, that is a strong connection point for all of us. And we work together, Cliff, myself, Drew, Kate, everything from planning the creative strategy to evaluating the creative output to what are the media and channel plans, and then it helps with Drew's team. How are we going to measure it, optimize, and run it all again? And so I think for us, it's just been, while it wasn't easy at first, I think when you look at the roles and responsibilities and how, the order that we're kind of sitting in here, it really works as a humming wheel for all of these things to kind of move in the same system. And it's a constant communication between all of us of the things that we can do differently, the things that we can fix, and the experiments that we want to run. So
I think that's it. It is a constant communication and driving clarity from the very beginning. We talked a little bit about that strategic foundation, and it's also how we work together. Heather and I worked really closely in the beginning of like, all right, let's lay this all out and really think about who does what, not to make silos, but to understand the process and how we could work together. And as Heather said, it's been, it's awesome. We're learning together, we're growing together, and the teams have that kind of clarity on how we are partnering and driving it together.
And I think you, Kate, started off with something earlier really important, which is putting the customer at the center of that. That's what ends up being the true north. If you're taking care of the customer, everything else will fall into place, right? Okay, so you're talking about collaboration, and we talked about roles and responsibilities. And in your intros, you kind of all discussed kind of what your teams do. But let's kind of maybe go down the row again. Heather, we'll start here. How have you all sort of worked together more specifically around this transformation? Kind of what were the big resets you had to think about? What are some results to date you might want to share? And kind of we'll go down the row.
For us, it was really evolving the marketing mix, as I said, right? Predominantly, in search, you got 183 characters, right, to tell your story. And that's really, when you think about the transition that we're on, driving to that North Star, we have so much more to say. We don't want to be labeled as the business card company anymore. And so you need sight, sound, and motion, and you need a lot of other ways to connect with customers. But again, we are a very financially driven company, as Jen said as well, right? We have our CFO and our finance partners where we are constantly being held to performance metrics and making sure that all of the efforts that we're doing have and drive value. And so for us, it's, we're really embarking on a really fun time where we're doing a lot of DMA kind of test or match market tests. We're doing tests where we'll take some full countries, a couple of countries, and we'll run a different offense, really change the brand to performance spend ratios, evolving that mix, running that through, and then really working hard to analyze all of that and make sure that it's driving not only upper funnel brand metrics, but all the way through the path to conversion, as well as kind of what is the financial impact of that over a period of time. And so we are in the hot seat right now because we are in the midst of a variety of tests that we just actually came out of a business review yesterday with our executive team. But you can see the momentum. You can see the metrics start to turn. It takes time. It's not going to happen overnight. But we know we need to get out of this world where last-click search is not going to be the way to grow our brand in the future. And so just evolving to different tactics is really the key thing that I work on with these guys.
Cliff, what do you think about sort of the transformation in the collaboration side, and any resets you had to go through?
Yeah, we had to go through a major reset creatively. I think the way we were set up historically was it was very siloed. And we're a global company, so there was we called them lines of businesses in all different countries that sort of operated sort of on their own in the silos, not what you need as a brand for everyone to have a communication that is consistent across the board and across up and down through the funnel. So the big reset was making it feel like instead of being 27 individual creative organizations, we were one. So getting everybody on board with that across the GMs, the creatives as well, all of the partners that we have, that we are one creative agency, that a brand starts with that message that then delineates all the way down, and then whatever part of the funnel you're in, you could apply it how it's appropriate. So it was just sort of like, again, that mind shift that we're not siloed anymore, but we're one creative org that works together, and also the communication, because people wouldn't talk to each other. I'd be in reviews where I was on a review with the German country, the UK, and I believe Barcelona, and they all were doing the same piece of work, but they all did it separately and different. And I just said, but that could have been done once, and you could have passed it and then localized it per country. So it's just changing the mentality and the mindset to operate as one and as a brand. Again, consistency is key, no matter how you show up. And I believe every touch point is a brand touch point. Whether it's an email that goes out, it's still a brand touch point, as opposed to, that's just a performance marketing email. It's still a brand touch point. So getting people to think differently, to think in a way where they think brand first and customer first, and as well as just getting that communication across so that it was simpler handoffs from one to the next, where Heather's team is talking to now newly, because there were new things that just popped up, new offensives that popped up that we'd never had before, so we had to explain to people why and how it worked, and then bring that collaboration together. So communication and collaboration has been huge to get things, because now if I do something for brand, how it applies to performance marketing. So performance marketing isn't starting from zero or scratch. They can take things that we're doing from the brand side. So just to create that mentality, that one creative agency, building a brand as opposed to individual silos, all the way down to even how we show up on site, to be consistent with what we're doing with our upper funnel communication. So I think just exposing ourselves to each other, but exposing is a weird term to use, but
You're a close team. You're a close team.
Really close, really close. We get weird at times as well, but yeah, that's another story. But it was just breaking down those walls that people had, because it was a lot of this is mine, this is mine, this is mine, and made it a we instead of an I.
I love that. I do want to keep going down the road, but I will say I did another one of these Brand Innovators events in Chicago over the summer with a chief commercial officer from a large enterprise, and she was saying the same thing around the data side, right? There's no such thing as my data in her organization. She pointed out, I think you're right, there's no such thing as my creative in an organization like yours, and I think it's such a we deal with a lot of big companies at Sprinklr, and it's such a common theme of what you just explained. And so, do you want to hear more, about sort of the collaboration as this transformation is taking place? But if we could come back at some point to how do you sort of unify that creative globally? Because it is and I'm wondering if there's some nodding heads in the room, it's a real challenge, I think, for a lot of organizations. So I think some best practices around that would be super helpful. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
The one thing I'll say is, like, Heather talked about our mantra. Like, my creative mantra for the creative org has always been, when one win, we all win, right? Like, it's not about who did it. We all show up. No one sees my name when it goes on an ad. They see Vista or Vista Print. And we all have collective stake in that. So it's just rallying everybody to understand that, like, this is a group goal, and we operate as one, as opposed to, oh yeah, you did that great thing, and on the other flip side, like, if something doesn't go wrong, like, oh man, you really screwed that up. We win and we fail together. And I think just getting that belief around, again, big sports background, so I bring a lot of those principles to the way I sort of like try to run the creative org as well, to be one body. But we could talk about that later.
All right, we would definitely will. All right, Kate, to you, again, around collaboration in this transformation, any resets you had to kind of go through?
Yeah, I think we all have our own mantras, which is really interesting. And with the brand team, we talk a lot about connect the dots, and really thinking about the ways when I came in and we all talked about it, all of those teams were very siloed. What social didn't necessarily talk to PR. Brand activations was a new team. We started an ambassador program to really understand and connect with our SBOs, but those teams weren't necessarily talking to each other or working together. So that was a big reset, is how do we have these amazing programs together and then think about how we amplify and accelerate it out in the world. So one very specific example, we started a brand ambassador program I talked about a little bit earlier, with bringing in SBOs and really having that authentic one-to-one relationship. And that was for a lot of reasons. One was we really wanted to show the breadth of our abilities as Vista, and to help and to nurture those relationships. The other one was we got a lot of incredible information. We also got a lot of incredible great content and UGC content from them. That shouldn't just live in this one world. As Cliff talked about, how do we really get it out in the world? How do we think about that UGC and authentic content, whether it's in a performance banner or an email or out on our social channels, and how do we work together to amplify those kinds of stories? So it was really fun to, bring in all of the teams, but also start to really reset and think about how we connected, how we authentically connected, where we connected, and how that went across the organization and the company.
Sure.
Yeah, I guess we all have to share our mantras, right? So, well, we talk a lot about insight to action in my organization, and I think in this kind of process, and I think we'll come back to measurement at a different time in this conversation, but we're exercising a lot of new muscles in this transformation for us, and I see myself often as kind of the advocate for our marketing partners to our CFO and CEO in terms of being able to say, hey, like we're really changing how we approach our messaging, how we think about engaging with our customers and helping them understand that there is a financial impact. Sometimes there isn't too, and I think that's okay as well. We want to make sure that this team feels empowered to be able to test and to be able to learn. And so, as we think about kind of this collaboration, my team is embedded across this organization with our marketing partners, and really see this as a true partnership in terms of how do we kind of forge this new path and make sure that we're demonstrating both top line and bottom line impact to our board and to our shareholders.
I think there's one lesson. Every marketer needs a data advocate to the CFO. I think that's a pretty good lesson. If you don't have one, go get one. Okay, let's talk a little bit more. Kate, you brought up social a couple times, and so let's spend a minute kind of digging into, because also, Heather, you talked about kind of, what marketing had been traditionally before. So, I said to Kate, but anybody who wants to jump in, Kate, you can start us off. What has been the approach on social as part of this transformation?
The approach has really been, how do we get more authentic and bring our voice out there? We had been very product, very business driving focused, and it was, how do we have our voice and tone really come through? So, you'll see on our channels a lot more human, a lot more UGC, a lot more ways to connect. We launched our TikTok channel mainly about a year ago now, and that was really about that authentic voice. We've all heard the ad with TikTok of don't do ads, do TikTok. So how do we use things like our ambassadors and our connections to really show who Vista is along the breadth in a more human and authentic way than we had in the past?
I love the focus on UGC. Again, you guys are small business focused. I mentioned to them when we talked earlier, my wife owns a daycare, so I get the small business life and the importance of the authenticity of what it means to run one of those businesses. So you just mentioned TikTok, and again, Kate, but anyone who wants to join in, very popular. I don't know if you guys have heard of TikTok. Very popular topic these days. So how did that launch go, or how are you thinking about sort of content and your approach at TikTok?
Well, I think, as Kate said, it's authenticity, right? Like, I think, people don't want to be served up an ad when they go to TikTok. They want to be entertained, and they want to learn something. And I think when we're using real small business owners, I love what Jen said as well. Like, I'm sorry to call you Jen and not Jennifer, but like with your hockey players, like only using real hockey players, right? Like we took the approach with our ads where from upper funnel all the way down to TikTok that we're only going to use real small business owners, right? Like, why am I going to create a fake coffee shop with a fake barista when there's 40 freaking coffee shops if I walk down the block? Each one with a unique story to tell. Each one's a unique business. So like getting those authentic, real stories out where people can connect to, where people can say, oh, I could see myself in that. Or even if I don't own a coffee shop, but as a small business owner, I can relate to what they're going through, that struggle, that success, that pain, and what it means to be a small business owner. So I think showing up with an authentic approach is what our strategy is, from TikTok all the way up to stuff we do above the funnel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Heather, I think in our earlier chat, you kind of touched on this. You said that, this is a brand transformation, but it's not just the responsibility of the brand team. And so obviously you've all touched upon in your own ways how you've taken on that responsibility. How do you inspire maybe the broader organization? And again, I'm asking you and anyone, please jump in. How do you inspire the broader organization to sort of get on board with some of the harder parts of this kind of transformation?
Yeah, I would say the last 3 years, I tell people they've been the most exciting of my career and the most exhausting of my career, right? Because as Drew said, like, we are introducing a lot of new muscle, but at the same time, there's so much growth and learning opportunity that's come to the entire team. So when you take a predominantly performance-driven marketing organization and you go out and you now, much like they just talked about the NFL, we have a Celtics partnership that we launched. If you asked me 4 years ago if I ever thought there would be a chance that we would go with a partnership this big and this magnitude, I would never have said there was a chance, right? But similar to your same story, Jennifer, which is just so interesting, right? Ricky came in with a strong vision, but that partnership has allowed us to kind of work that strategic muscle across so many different areas of the organization. And so I think for us, there's just a lot of excitement and momentum in the company, especially in the marketing organization. People are learning again. They're growing, right? And that's just a really awesome place to be because you don't want to be stagnant in this type of environment. So.
Yeah, I think that the big thing, which one of the reasons why I joined, is I saw the potential there, right? Like the opportunity and the possibilities. And the good thing is everybody was on board, whether like Heather, who's been there, double-digit years, or myself that just came on board. It didn't feel like there was anybody like, hunt for wreck. It wasn't like the chef trying to throw a wrench into the machine to break it down. Everybody was on board to make this transformation because it was new, it was exciting. It was like, oh, this is a place to go, as opposed to, hey, whoa, man, what are we doing? Like, you didn't see that resistance. So I think that helped in trying to, the journey that we're on is transform, is that everyone was all in. And I think that's helped to, as hard as it is to turn that iceberg around, or ship around, icebergs don't turn, but turn that ship around, like having everybody on board to do that has been super helpful.
Unfortunately, icebergs are turning these days. But yeah, did you have something you wanted to?
Maybe the other thing I'd add to this is like there's kind of a two-way there's a two-way input here where like everything that Cliff and Heather said is correct as well, but then we have our customer insights team here with us today, and you also get that feedback from our customers where we meet with them, we try to understand what their needs are, and I think we all have different personal connections to small businesses around the country or around the globe. But when you meet with these folks, like, you really understand their pride in their business. Like, they want to talk about how awesome their idea is, how great that their business is. And so when you have also that kind of bottom swell from the actual customer, I think that's also really empowering within the organization in terms of, who we're actually doing this for. Obviously, we want to drive financial impact, but we also want to support these businesses as they try to grow and become more successful themselves.
You guys mentioned this sort of briefly earlier, and Drew, I think maybe you talked about it when we spoke earlier, but let's not overlook the fact that you're going through this transformation in turbulent, to put it nice, times, right? So obviously you've got the heart of COVID, the beginning of lockdown and all of that. As we have come out of it, we are now in shaky economic times, and for small businesses, that is, particularly important. So again, everyone's been sort of navigating those waters, and it looks like we're going to keep navigating them for a little bit. Thoughts on how you did that? And again, we can start down there with you, Drew, but all the way down. How did you navigate those waters?
Yeah, I mean, when COVID hit, we saw our business down 85% for a number of days, right? And I think that was a really scary moment for all of us. And we're like, oh my God, like what is happening? And really, it's up the stakes for this entire duration in terms of, like, we have to be successful at driving impact for the business. But at the same time, that in some ways gave us some freedom. We needed to make sure that we protected the business. We were able to stand up a very successful mask business. From a testing perspective, we had to get into channels that we didn't have as much exposure to before in order to actually push that as a product. And that's kind of paved the way for us as we continue to progress now. And so that heightened level of urgency still exists for us. I'm sure it exists for everyone in this room. But there's a huge component of we need to make sure that we're accurately measuring these things, that we're providing that financial impact, and that we're doing it at a time that there's a lot of uncertainty and certainly a lot of negative pressures on stock prices. And we want to make sure we protect that as well.
And I'd say it's about making choiceful, smart decisions as well. We get approached to do a lot of things, a lot of which we wish we could do all of them. We can't. Heather mentioned our Celtics partnership. We had the NBA approach us to do a partnership. We have a big partnership with Liverpool Football Club over in the UK, which is, a lot of our communication over there. And then we got approached by Ryan Reynolds and his Wrexham Football Club team. It was like, yeah, well, that one we should probably do. He's got like a gazillion followers. That's an easy one. So,
We'll find the budget for that.
Yeah, we'll find a budget for that, yeah. I remember that Ricky called me. Actually, it was really weird. Like, I was in Boston, and Ricky texted me at like 11:30 and said, hey, man, you up? And I was like, yeah, that's a really weird text for you to send me at 11:30 at night, but what's up? And he's like, hey, Ryan Reynolds' team just called in. Should we do it? And I was like, F yeah, we should do it as Ryan Reynolds. Like, dude, yes.
There was a little more thought that.
Yeah, a little bit more, but that was our communication. That was, yeah. I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but that was me and Ricky at midnight. Yeah, we should do it. So great. You asleep yet? No. But there were other great ones that we wanted to do, but it's like, I don't know if that's the right thing to do at this time. So it's really about making decisions that will advance what we're trying to do, and some that are like, hey, that's great, but we can't do that now. Maybe at another time. And also how we show up and where we show up. Maybe we don't do bigger things, but as Drew said, we show up in more, being choiceful in how we show up in the places that we show up.
I think the other one is listen to the voice of the customer. Drew, you talked about it, of what are their needs and how can we best address them, and that changes every day, week, month. And we continue as our transformation goes to be able to have the tools to be able to serve those needs. So that was a big one. And again, really connecting authentically and more one-on-one than we had in the past gave us even more tools to be able to do that.
Yeah, real-time voice of the customer. And Cliff, just so you know, whenever I get a midnight text from Ryan Reynolds, I always say yes to. So don't worry. All right, so we're going to run out of time pretty soon. A couple things I wanted to talk more about. You guys have kind of mentioned the Ambassadors program. I wanted to give you the stage to talk a little bit more about that, sort of how that developed. Great idea. I mean, exactly, again, because you guys have supporting such an important part of sort of the economy in the small business world, and authentic voice of the customer comes in there. So, Cliff, I don't know if you wanted to start, but talking about what that ambassador program looks like, how it started, where it went.
I'll start really. I'll start. So it was as we started to have that brand transformation and the brand team and the brand activation team, how do you start with a foundation? Yes, we had big partnerships, was amazing, but that one-on-one connection became really important. So we reached out and started connecting with small businesses and hearing their stories, being able to have that more personal connection with them. We actually just came off about 2 weeks ago a summit where we brought 50 small businesses together and gave them experience like we all have today, whether inspiration, education, and even relaxation of, these small businesses never get that opportunity. And to have everyone in a room, one, to be able for Vista to share thoughts and services, but also see the interaction between them. It became a real I know that sounds kind of corny, but it became a real family. And having the small businesses be able to talk to each other, have the conversations, be able to take the time away from their business to be able to do that was pretty amazing. We also got incredible content out of it. So from a business perspective, there was a lot of pluses. And even now I'm hearing there's collaboration between the small businesses, a candle and a soap company coming together, which is incredible to see. So I know, right?
Natural fit. It's a natural fit.
Exactly. And then the storytelling and opportunities that came out of that is what, Cliff and team's really helping us with.
Yeah, and I think from the output standpoint, I think it's about like finding those people that are going to be your evangelist, right? Like these are small business. And when you hear the stories, when I first started, and I'd hear stories from small business owners about what it means to them and the impact, it was sort of like took a step back, because usually you don't have that connection when you work in our bigger brands, but when you have that one-on-one connection with the consumer, which is a small business owner, it's like, wow, the impact of it. And, for me, it's like we could sit up all day and be like, oh, Vista and Vistaprint is great. Oh, it's amazing. But when you have an actual small business owner saying it, when you have somebody who's living it and going through it, like evangelizing for you, to other small business owners, that's where it actually, like that peer-to-peer conversation, I feel like is more impactful than us saying it. Of course, we believe it, but when the people actually affected by it believe it, we feel like it is stronger. So I think that the output from the ambassador program has been one of the key elements from it.
I love that. Last question. I'm going to end with you, Heather. This is the part where I sound like I'm talking to an author who just released a hot new book. What's next, Heather? We said this is a journey. This is continuing. Sort of what can we look ahead to for the Vista transformation?
We're on the reconsideration bridge, as we call. We're on one mountain, we're trying to get to the next, and there's a lot of work to be done. And I hope that small business owners and others see us for what we want to become, right? Really being that partner to small businesses, connecting authentically, as we talked about, offering much more depth and breadth of what we can bring to them, and really helping them grow. So I think as we kind of continued our wheelhouse and our offense, you'll start to see that manifest itself through all of the great work that comes out.
I love this. Heather, Cliff, Kate, Drews, the Vista team, everybody. Round of applause. Cheers and accolades around. Thank you, guys.